Hello and welcome back to another results video for PGMA, the Pixel Game Maker Awards. So we're at the halfway point of the contest right now. Round 2 is coming to a close and the competition is starting to get a little tense. As expected, we got to see some pretty strong games this round, some entries with some great presentation, some that tested the limits of what could be done with the round's theme, and overall just some very creative world building. Now, as per usual, let's go over this round's circumstances to see who remains and what they were working with. So just like round 1, participants were also given about 2 weeks to put something together for this round. Now, we did give a couple of days as a head start, but apart from knocking out the competition, there's really not much expectation for the scope of the games to expand. However, that's still what we got in many cases. The competition might be heating up, but for this theme, we decided to cool things down, both figuratively and literally. We landed on the theme Sub-Zero, which of course can be interpreted in more ways than just regarding temperature. As we like to stress, there's no wrong or right way to look at the theme, just as long as you are trying to apply it. We did want a theme that was a little bit simpler and easier to interpret than round 1. For this round, we entered with the remaining 25 teams and/or solo participants from round 1, and if you remember correctly, we eliminated half the roster, and, well, we're about to do it again.
For number 3, I chose Skiing by the Code Tigers. This is a really cute game where the player guides a skier down the mountain, avoiding obstacles and staying fast enough to avoid freezing so they can travel from cabin to cabin and warm up. And there's also a subplot of you being an electrician and fixing resident spoilers. There were a lot of great games this round, but this one stood out for its unique game mechanics and art style. Whilst the idea of keeping the player warm was far from original, doing this while skiing instead of a Celeste-style platform was quite creative. From the intro to the characters to the little house scenes, this game is packed full of beautiful art with a strong, unique colour scheme. The skiing mechanic is implemented well, and it's fun to just glide from side to side and go over the jumps. The team also made custom music for their game, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Overall, really good, and the only thing I'd change would be maybe some sound effects for skiing, and perhaps a deeper exploration of the player's electrician job. For number 2, I picked Mewtwo 1988's game Freezy Summit. This game is super impressive, and it amazes me that in just 2 weeks a single developer could put together something of this quality. In this game you play as a penguin whose village has been attacked by monsters, commanded by a king living at the top of the mountain. Your goal is to climb the mountain, completing puzzles along the way till you reach the king and defeat him. First off, just look at that art. That is practically professional quality. That's the kind of art I'd expect from an indie game on Steam, not a Scratch game. There's fluid animations, beautiful character designs, and detailed backgrounds. It's just great. The gameplay, also excellent. Shooting monsters to turn them into ice, which could be used in the puzzles, felt unique, and the ice cube sliding was pretty satisfying. My only criticism would perhaps be that the interpretation of the theme wasn't the most exciting, but overall a superb entry. Good job, Mewtwo 1988. Finally, for number 1, my pick was Faith by Pond Monsters. Now this game was just brilliant, perhaps a near perfect PGMA entry. In this game, you play as a mountaineer who's climbing a mountain as part of a pilgrimage to develop their faith in their religion. Along the way, they encounter various characters and fight off animals like vultures and uncharacteristically dangerous beavers. Like the previously discussed entry, this game also had Steam quality art with exceptional level design. Everything you interact with has these wonderfully high quality animations that really make this feel polished. The coding for this game is really strong, and I loved how the dialogue was presented, the rope physics of the grapple, and the particle effects. Initially grappling was a little bit hard for me, but once you get the hang of it, it's very fun to do. The level design was very strong, and I felt I had the perfect amount of difficulty to keep the player engaged without making them frustrated. There's 2 bosses in this game, and both are really good. The first one took me a lot of tries to beat, but I managed to do it in the end. It was pretty satisfying when I did. The second one, unfortunately, I didn't have time to grind out beating, but it seemed pretty cool. Finally, the sound design and music fit very well, definitely helped give the game an exciting atmosphere. In summary, this game is perhaps one of the best game jam entries I've ever seen made with Scratch, and I'm sure it will be a strong contender for winning the round.
So the first game I want to talk about is called Runes of Ice. So it's a platformer and you try to go into a volcano, and overall I'd say it's a really solid game. The ice mechanics felt really nice and really smooth, and I just loved how it was so simple. Over time, we can see this ice mechanic. It takes on multiple uses and applications, and it's just really interesting to see it being used in so many different ways, even though it's just one feature. Overall, the difficulty progression was really good for me, at least. I think it was basically perfect, and the art of the ground and background was really nice, and I especially liked the parallax effect you added to the background. I think it was a really nice touch. But I do have to say that the player looks a little bit out of place. I think the colors are just a bit off, but this is just a tiny complaint. Everything else looks really good. The next game I want to talk about is called Super Cool. Similar to Runes of Ice, you just play with the same mechanic throughout the entire game, but you learn different ways in which the mechanic can be used, and it's really interesting. One thing I do have to say though is that the freezing mechanic feels a little bit clunky and random. You don't really know when you're going to be frozen. You can kind of guess, but you don't know exactly. So if you added a countdown or timer, or maybe animation that tells you when you were going to freeze, that'd be really helpful. Also, if you added a restart button, it'd make the gameplay feel much better, because a lot of times you know you're already cooked, so you just have to wait patiently until you die. Moving on, Pass the Puck is a really solid puzzle game where you play as penguins playing hockey in freezing temperatures in Antarctica. The art is really cute for this game, and I think the music and overall sound effects really fit the vibe. However, the biggest concern I have for this game is that the theme, Sub-Zero, doesn't really play an effect on the story or gameplay. I'd recommend you putting in a little bit more thought into making a good use of the theme. Also, gameplay-wise, it's a really simple game, and despite it being a puzzle game, it doesn't really make you think too hard, and you don't really get like that much of an aha moment when you solve a puzzle. So I think adding more challenges and making it a little bit more complicated would be a nice thing to think about, but overall, really nice game for something that was made in 2 weeks.
So first up is Pass the Puck, which I thought was just an overall solid game, cute art style, pretty fun puzzles, although I think they were a bit too easy. I think this is one of the few games in this round that could actually benefit from a few more features, like maybe different penguins that interact differently with the puck. With the mechanics you've got, I could definitely see it being a tough puzzle game if you ever decide to expand on it. So the last game I wanted to talk about was Operation Sub-Zero, which was actually pretty buggy the first time I played it. I got stuck in a wall on the first boss, and I remember after I died, my corpse slid all the way across the arena like it was in an F1 race. But after I came back to play it again, I actually had a lot of fun with it. There's an entire system where you can swap out your upgrades for different ones, which I didn't even realize the first time I was playing through it. But I think the game does suffer a bit from feature bloat. Having all these weapons and options available to the player is cool, but not all of them are particularly useful. Like for example, the grappling hook. Overall though, great game. I'd say there were great games all around.
So I want to go over my top 3 games that I actually streamed this round, starting with Onionland by PK Head. What stuck out to me was how surprisingly well the art worked for me. It was obviously a little bit lower res than other entries, yet the colors were used and contrasted with one another well enough to make this cavern setting really cozy and retro. But anyway, the story is that you're this Onyu creature who's searching the cavern for a fire orb that will provide a source of lasting heat for your species during a harsh winter. Despite this, I do feel that the theme was taking a backseat most of the time and that the story could be removed without changing 95% of the game. Though what makes up for it are the really clever puzzles and abilities you get to learn how to use, and also the size of this subterranean world, which is very surprising to have been built in such a short time. So all in all, great job with this one. Now, this was impossibly difficult for me to choose between my first and second favorite games, but second place would have to go to Shrub-Zero by Frog Squad. Despite being conflicted still on how integrated the theme is, I do have to commend them for their obvious desire to stray from a generic interpretation and put out this incredibly meticulous gardening simulator where the main goal is to pay rent and not get evicted. Sound fun? Well, actually, yes, because the other goal is to grow a thriving garden full of plants and protect them from the wind and cold. I personally wouldn't call this game easy if your goal is to fill your screen with plants, yet I did find myself coming back to this again and again, and just couldn't ignore how much was thought about to make this feel accurate, having to consider the weather forecast, the way the wind is blowing, how different plants interact with each other and nature. That makes for a sometimes frustrating but surprisingly therapeutic experience when you really lock into it. So awesome job, and hope to see more from these guys. Last but not least, my number 1 pick this round goes to Doom Ponies' Was It Worth the Frostbite? First of all, love the name, and it's a first insight into both the comedic and depressing story behind this game's plot, but you play as a member of a quite toxic friend group who essentially peer pressure you into descending into a cold cave in search of valuable treasure or items for money, what have you. Little do you know, the secondary concern is not freezing to death, but also fending off some less than friendly creatures lurking below. The art and graphics were pretty solid, but what actually stuck out to me was the great sound design and music. This was supposed to come off as a horror game, and with your headphones on, it definitely sells the tension, while the controls, especially with the inventory, were a little overcomplicated. Once I got used to them, it was really fun going back and forth between the safe house and exploring the depths of the cave. I also love how many usable items there were, all with their own purposes to help you stay alive and explore the cave further. So all of this gave a sort of Minecraft survival mode feel to it, which I enjoyed. There's a lot more I could say about this, but I ultimately chose this as my favorite just due to the fact that this was done pretty much solo, and I felt I was still able to get a complete experience, even with some stuff still undiscovered. So amazing job to Doom Pony, and I hope to see more soon. Here we come to the final results. Now, we like to give a small explanation as to how these are calculated, but basically we start with the public, who can vote on their favorite game freely. Meanwhile, the judges are all assigned a batch of entries to play and review on their own. We consider 4 main things: gameplay, music and sound, art and graphics, and theme. Now, judge votes go through a lot, but put simply, we average those scores up and then scale them up so they can sort of overpower the public votes. We then add the two together for a total score, which will be the final determining factor. As always, good luck to the contestants. Congratulations to King Midas for taking first place this round. Great game, honestly not too surprising with that amount of support from the public, but well deserved. But seriously, we had a lot of improvement all around. Everyone should be proud of themselves, even those of you who unfortunately didn't make it. It's sad to see you go, but we do have to move on. So, round 3, aka the semifinals. Now, because of a small thing we're going to do with the theme this round, which I'll explain in a moment, we're going to need a few days, so we're starting round 3 on February 3rd. At long last, you guys are finally getting some more time to work on your games, because this round we're going up to 3 weeks, putting our due date on February 24th. Now, remember, this was the last round with public votes, so this coming round, it's going to be all up to us, the judges. Another important reminder, especially for any procrastinators, the submission timeframe from the moment the form opens will be 24 hours, no longer 48. You have an extra week, so there's plenty of opportunity to allocate that extra day during the work period. And lastly, we're letting you, yes, you and the community, vote on this round's theme. So I'm going to present them now, and you can go down to the link in the description to cast your vote. Thanks for watching, and good luck to our survivors.
Worst customer service. Apparently the customer's not always right, because your service isn't looking so great, and you make your company look bad. What industry are you in anyway? Are you trying to do better? Maybe you just don't care anymore. Is there performance to uphold, or money to be earned? Would the customers have something to say about it? or a game show. You're in a game show. Are you competing against others? Perhaps you're the host or the viewer. What's the challenge based on? Is it luck, physical exertion, puzzles? Maybe these concepts overlap in crazy ways. Do you need to earn favor or likability? What kind of environment is it held in? It could be every man for himself, or maybe you need an alliance. Not keeping your secret. Someone knows a secret, or maybe more. There could be consequences of this being exposed. Is it just a dumb rumor? Or maybe it's something that could alter the course of history. At what cost do you need to keep this hidden? Does it evolve into misinformation? Perhaps it's one person you have to keep this from getting to. Flip-flop. You set the rules of alternation. There's two sides of a coin, and you need to decide what that coin is. Does the world of reality change between two states? Does the objective switch off? Perhaps one side is to prepare for something unknown on the other. Could we be seeing two sides of one story? Who knows? Maybe you're the one changing.